All right. He's getting excited.
Even outside, it's packed.
He's getting excited. He's moving.
Cash, green, I mean
That's
green
what you need.
cash.
I don't need that. I just need you to like the stream before we get started. That's what we need to do.
I like fighting number 2.
That's right. I don't need to be number 1 right now. I just,
I like fighting number 2.
that's right.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
I'm sorry. Pushed the wrong button. All right. Hit the like now. All right, let's start. Let's just heck with it. Let's get started. There's a lot going on. I don't have time for it to. Hi, how you guys doing? Welcome to the show. Oh crap! Hold on one second. There we go. Got my side lights, and then I'm not all cut out, and then it's like this ghosty greenish hue thing around me, and then it's hard to, never mind. It's not important. It's just important to me. It's just me running the show all by my lonesome. How are you? That's accessories are taking a while to respond. I know that. I appreciate you telling me that. But they're fine. And thanks to everybody who's with me today, watching. If you're not watching the Pittsburgh Buffalo game, like my girlfriend and her son are doing one floor up, if you hear thumping, stomping, and some scary noises and some screaming, more than likely they're either scoring or not scoring, depending on the content of the noise or the fierceness by which it happens. So far, not so good. I don't know, whatever. But regardless, hello, welcome. How are you? And thanks to everybody who is here.
Even outside, it's packed.
Yeah, I mean, the crowd I have on the internet, I don't want to brag, but any room I'm in, there's always consistently more people not in that room on Earth than there are in that room. And that might seem hard to believe, but it's true. And I'm not ashamed to admit it. Yeah. So there you go. So there's a lot, obviously, the big thing is Trump making his final plays in Iowa as he pitifully wanders around these little gatherings and gets his caucus shrinkage on or what have you. And I'm sorry, it's childish, but you have to understand, I cannot and I will not take this dipshit seriously because he's not a serious person, as I will show you right now. Enjoy this really short clip. And by the way, while you're here, like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show, etc., etc. And then am I gonna have to? Yeah, hold on. I have to move. You silly me. There you go. Hold on. Wait, oh, it's locked. Is it? Maybe. There we go. And then Enoch Chuck. There you go. I'm a little bitter. Yeah. Little better and bigger and better sometimes come together into bitter. And I think we've all learned a valuable lesson. Yes, Trump froze his wig off, so he's wearing that. He's also wearing the caucus captain hat. Now, real quick before we start this nonsense, because you asked for it. And by the way, hi, chat room. Hi, guys. You're wonderful, and hello, and welcome. Good to see you. Sir, how do you put your pants on? Like everybody else, with help. The white hat. Okay, so the word on the Q street is that Trump is wearing a white hat. Hi, chat room. Show them what it's like to like the stream while I'm talking to you, while you're right here. That'll help out. That he's wearing a white hat, and he took pizzas to the firehouse. Therefore, he's signaling that he's part of the white hats, which are the good guy military against the black hat or the red hat or the green hat or the blue hat or whatever random shit there is. And the Pizzagate, he's taking that to the fire station so that they can put out the child trafficking baby milkshake fire. That's the word on the street. Other than he's, I know what you're thinking. I probably think same thing I was thinking is that he just thought white and gold looks like trashy nouveau riche bullshit, which is what he likes. And he brought pizzas to the firehouse because it took the least amount of effort. It was a low-res food stuff that he could bring over there without having to call ahead and say, hey, did anybody there? Burgers, chicken, what's the deal? Just bring pizzas and fuck it. Like, it absolutely the lowest amount of effort he could drum up going to the pizza, taking pizza to the firehouse. That's it. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's not a chintzy, nouveau riche, second-generation dickhead who's broke and likes to pretend he's a billionaire. Maybe I'm wrong. And he's really part of an anti-child trafficking cabal fighting against the deep state. And he signals everyone what he's doing with the fact that hats that you have to pick a color fabric is actually slightly more expensive. Also, insofar as the pizza, the campaign paid for them. Oh, God.
Mr. President, you've added a couple of events in New Hampshire. Was that a response to Nikki Haley's...
Oh, he gave remarks, and then he took a couple of questions. This woman just asked a question. She goes, you added a couple of events in New Hampshire. Here, listen to what she says again, and then listen to his answer, because he has no idea.
Mr. President, you've added a couple of events in New Hampshire.
You've added a couple of events in New Hampshire. He is in Iowa. He's in Iowa. She's asking about New Hampshire. Okay.
Was that a response to Nikki Haley's rise in the polls there?
Say it again.
You've added a couple more events in New Hampshire next week. Was that a response to Nikki Haley's rise in the polls there?
Who's rising the polls?
Nikki Haley's.
She hasn't risen to me. See, this is a typical CNN question. They had it the other day where Nikki went up a little bit beyond. She went up 2, and she was at 11, but she beat DeSantis.
By the way, no, she didn't. She went up a lot more than that. He's literally in New Hampshire. He's like at 30%. Let's just be abundantly clear. In the polls he's talking about, she went up to 28% or some shit like that. She's like, if she gets Christie's numbers, she beats him in New Hampshire. End of fucking conversation. That's just true.
I was at 69.
And that's that is allegedly his nationwide number from like last April.
And I went up 7.
No, he did not. He is not at 76 right now. No, he isn't. He's not at 76, and they're dividing 1% either in New Hampshire or anywhere else for that fucking matter. Certainly not in Iowa. Definitely not in New Hampshire. Bullshit.
And they said, Haley surges. She was at 11, but she beats it. So the headline was Haley surges. Because that's why it's fake news, CNN. That's why nobody watches it.
But the poll is actually the difference. All right, never mind. It's just he's just being a dick to this woman. Now, yeah. Also, she's asking you add events in New Hampshire.
No, not for any reason. I have time here. I like the people here.
I have time here. I like the people here. He's in Iowa. Just making sure.
People. We love you. Yeah. We do want to send a signal to November. Yeah. And it's really November. We're not even talking about anything else. We're not.
Yeah. It says IA. I think it says IA Caucus behind him. Yeah. Because he's not in New Hampshire. He's in Iowa. So when he says he added events here, he likes it here. Then what? He's just going to blow off New Hampshire and stay. It's just stupid. He's fucking up where he is. Let's just abundantly clear. He doesn't know what state he's in right now. All that shit he says about Joe Biden not knowing where he is. He literally just said, she's like, why have you added these in New Hampshire? He's like, I like it here. It's we have a lot of support here. You're not in New Hampshire.
South Carolina, we're beating Nikki by 40 or 50 points, and then she was governor there, so explain that one. Plus, we have almost every...
Well, apparently the people of South Carolina lost a lot of respect for her when she went to work for you.
Every major government official in South Carolina is endorsing us. Yeah. I mean, it's been amazing. And in Nevada, which you're forgetting about, but Nevada's actually third. It comes before South Carolina.
Uh-huh.
And in Nevada, we're at like 90%.
First of all, asshole, it's Nevada. It's Nevada. They literally, He fucked this up like during, I want to say in 2020 he did this shit. Like if you say Nevada, everybody gets, you know, if you say Nevada, you get it wrong. It's Nevada. It's the opposite. But then that's it. I guess he just thinks it doesn't sound, like fancy enough.
In his sock drawer
In his sock drawer in Nevada.
or something. So we're doing.
And Mr. President,
Jesus Christ. And again, the audio on him is terrible and everybody's just yelling. So sorry about the spike in audio.
what you said that they not.
It's a fucking mess. So needless to say, yeah, it's a little room of people. He's just talking to his caucus captains. Then this is when he's talking. Yeah, he's talking about Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley and yeah.
But I'm looking at a man in the back. I tell you what, I watched Ron DeSanctimonious getting ready to speak about 6 months ago.
All right, I don't know what that I watched a man in the back of the room. It's just a non sequitur. He just kind of grabs that out of the air. It's super weird.
He was on a stage with your governor, and your very loyal governor, who's now the least popular governor in the country.
No, they aren't. No, they're not the least. Iowa doesn't have the least popular governor in the country.
And they were getting ready to speak, and it was very interesting. Two young men, they looked like they came out of the Wharton School of Finance. Very handsome guys, obviously from Iowa. He was standing back, and somebody was introducing him.
Again, it's a weird, him just kind of, I don't know, kissing Iowa ass, and yet trying to make the point that only handsome people graduate from fucking Wharton, and then I don't know what the hell.
And do you remember this? And they walked up.
No one knows what the fuck you're talking about yet, stupid.
And they took the podium like this. They were the coolest cats I've ever seen. They weren't like sneaking up, right? They walked on the stage, just lifted.
God damn, the sniffing too.
Did everything up, and they just walked off with it. Two guys. And the governor was screaming, "You took our podium." And DeSanctimonious is screaming, "We're my podium, my podium." They're standing there with that. And they walked off. And then if you watched it a little longer, you see them. They walked around, and you could see them backstage. They just stole the podium. They took it away. I'm dying to find those two guys because I'd love to shake their hand. I don't.
All right. CSL, do we have any idea what the fuck he's talking about? I like that. I missed the two people stole the fucking podium thing. Like, does anybody know what the ever-loving shit he's talking about? Okay, hold on. Two men steal DeSantis podium, Iowa. I don't know what the fuck. Ron DeSantis dog by protesters at Iowa State Fair. Cause okay. No. Videos of two men steal. Okay, videos of two men steal. Yeah, I mean, I don't. Let's see. Ron DeSantis is booed off podium and vigil for mass shooting victims, whatever. Yeah. No idea. Honest to God. Like, just fucking gibberish. Right. Okay. Maybe it's to be found, but I'm not gonna hold my breath. Like, I was looking. I looked for it, but.
I don't know if they're in the room. Are they in the room? I don't know. Nobody knows who they are.
Right. Even the people who you think it was. Yeah, I don't know if it is the Arkansas podium. Yeah.
It was one of the coolest acts I've ever seen in politics. So if you...
What, did you dream it?
You would...
Or did I dream it?
Spread the word. I've never done this before. Spread the word. I have to find... I said, I'm going to Iowa. I have to find those two guys, okay? So please look for them.
Yeah. Can we comb through your fucking rotted brain?
Madam Attorney General, you can do it better than anybody if you put the full force... If you do what they do to me, they have the full force of the Justice Department in against the political opponent of a guy who can't speak well. So if you could do that, I want to find that.
No, okay. A guy who can't speak well. No one knows what the fuck you are talking about.
those two people, and I hope you don't prosecute them. They did nothing wrong. Likewise, Nikki Haley opposed my border wall. Do you know she opposed the wall very strongly? She was totally against it.
Then why did you make her your UN delegate?
Which tells you where she's coming from.
Yes, she's coming from South Carolina to the UN thanks to you. You hired her.
She condemned my strong border policies, and in 2016, she stabbed the Republican Party in the back by siding
2016
with a gentleman named Barack Hussein Obama. Remember Rush Limbaugh? Here you go, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh yeah, the dead guy, right? The death because of his drug use, 30,000. I don't know, painkillers, oxy. Was it? He was having his maid smuggle oxy. And then he got busted going to like the Dominican Republic with like Viagra and Oxy, something like that.
What is it, Rush? I'm talking about Barack Hussein Obama.
So he used to do that. Remember that racist thing that he would just do all the time that we are all like, isn't racism fun? That just, yeah.
Barack, emphasis on Hussein Obama.
Yeah, we got it. But the emphasis being that it is a Middle Eastern name means it's a handsome one, I think. Isn't that right?
He was a piece of work. We gave him the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Remember that?
Yeah, he's the first guy to ever get busted for using his maid to traffic 30,000 oxy pills to ever receive the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
Right. He was very brave. He fought a hard battle. That last couple of years, he fought a hard battle. But Barack Hussein Obama, she sided with Barack Hussein Obama against me on a thing called the Trump travel ban. And the travel ban meant
and then you hired her for the UN.
We want to keep people from terrorist countries out of the United States, if you don't.
Yeah, okay. Keeping terrorists out of the country, good. Keeping people out of the country just because they come from countries that have terrorists in them, not good. Because here's an example you asshats might possibly be able to wrap your fucking brain around. Coptic Christians. So there's myriad of areas in the Middle East where Christians are like notoriously persecuted, slaughtered. And some of those people, oddly enough, might want to flee to the United States because of that persecution. And one would think that, that you guys being the alleged party of Christianity might be okay with that. But instead of going, no, you can't. Look, you're in a country where there's a lot of victims and there's a lot of perpetrators. And since there's perpetrators there, the victims can't escape because fuck you. That's that. Yeah.
Mind. And she fought me on it. I said, what the hell is she doing? She was in a different position. But she fought me on it. I wasn't too happy, but I did want to make Henry the governor. So sometimes you do things. She even said illegal aliens.
That's super weird too. So his new argument is he made her ambassador to the UN so that he could vacate the South Carolina governorship, and so that her like they could put somebody else in there that was more suitable to him. Super fucking weird.
Aliens were not criminals. Ron and Nikki also want to gut Social Security and Medicare for seniors. Now they're changing their tune, but
no, he makes shit up, and then it turns out not to be true, and whatever.
If they were, it's not going to happen, by the way. First of all, they're both getting killed by Biden in the polls. And I'm beating Biden in every single poll in every single state. So you're not going to do it.
He's not beating Biden in every single poll in every single state. Fucking ridiculous. He knows it. By the way, this is also in the zone of him saying he won 50 states last time. Like, he's just, I don't know what, like, semen version of osmosis he's getting from hanging out with Mike Pillow, but good Lord.
Nikki had one rigged poll a long time ago, like 3 months ago. One poll that showed she was up by like 11 or 12 points. And it was a rigged poll. I know the polling group very much.
Yeah, I pay them to rig polls for me all the time. I just couldn't afford them this time because I'm broke as fuck.
The best poll you can buy. And
yeah. You might not want to let people know that you're aware that polls can be bought, and that you know the people who sell the polls very well. I'm just saying.
Because they're just as dishonest as these people back here. They're pretty
Well, how can they be dishonest? If the news is reporting the poll, but the poll is bullshit, how do the news people know that? They're just reporting what the poll says. Not their fucking fault.
dishonest. So what happens, she uses that to a fare thee well, but she loses every time. She loses in every state. She loses to everybody. And
She loses in every state. She loses to everybody. Just, I mean, it's almost like somebody fighting as they're asleep, like just punching. Ah, monster! I beat the monster. It's this, you know what I mean? It just has this energy of like a fade punch. Like he's just, stop it, don't.
and she's really not much of a Republican. She's certainly
Jesus Christ. You hired her to be the UN rep for your administration.
not MAGA. DeSantis voted 3 times to raise the retirement age on Social Security to at least 70, 3 times. And Nikki Haley says the retirement age of 65 is, quote, her words, way too low. You don't hear that from
Hey, fuckhead. Most of the people in that room believe this shit.
Trump, because we have so much money underfoot. We
Underfit. Underfit.
have liquid gold more than Saudi Arabia, more than Russia. We were number 3 or 4 in oil production. And by the time I got out, you have to see this graph, Saudi Arabia, Russia, sort of going a little bit up. And then we're down here and we're like a rocket, you know, it's like, psh. And we were way number 1 and we were energy independent, but we would have been energy dominant within a few months. We would have been.
If it went up like a rocket ship, how the fuck did we, if we're energy independent by like this much of a change and it went up like, I don't know, this is, hold on, tell me this story again, asshole. Tell me what happened.
Russia, sort of going a little bit up. And then we're down here and we're like a rocket, you know, it's like, psh. And we were way number 1 and
we were way number 1.
we were energy independent, but we would have been energy dominant within a few months. We would have been making so much.
Yeah, 2 weeks after we make that deal with Iran, but of course you had to finish the healthcare plan first and release your taxes, and then right after that,
Much money, we would have started paying off our debt. We would have reduced taxes still further. And that's where we could do so much. And we can also do a lot of cutting. We can also do, is that Nigel Farage, by the way? Oh, you stand up, will you? I'm just looking at this handsome guy. He's been a backer of mine from day 1.
okay, real quick. Look, it's a little fucked up that he's got, I mean, everybody has surrogates come and help them in their final push and that kind of shit. And so Trump has Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz. They're working, you know, the voters for him, just kind of showing up and trying to bring people out to the caucuses and whatnot. And basically, like, it's your chance to meet a maggot celebrity, right? So he's trying to get people there. And he knows Nigel's there. He spoke with him earlier. It's not surprising that he's there. It's like, this is a total like lame ham-handed setup, but ultimately he's just trying to like get back onto whatever track he was on, if he was on one at all. So he's like, yeah, there's that guy. Hey, you suit this, blah, blah. He does that a lot. He like picks some person out and then inflates a detail with him and then tries to use that as a way to get himself back on teleprompter. The big thing that I think I see most in common with the people that are being interviewed that support Trump so far in the stuff that I've seen about the Iowa caucuses is that none of them are fucking from Iowa. It's super weird. He's got, because all of his front row Joes are there, but they can't caucus for him. They're not Iowa voters.
A thing called Brexit, very non-controversial. And you've been right. They haven't implemented too well, but you've been right. No, we're big fans. Thank you.
What the fuck does that mean? It was a terrible policy, but only because they did it the way it was actually written. And it would be great if it hadn't sucked.
It's really an honor to have you here. Great. You look great. I love these suits. You know, they know how to dress over there. We don't know how to dress like they do. Thank you.
Well, I mean, his tie stops at his belt. I suppose that's a fashion tips for that, Nigel. You don't have a giant red tie that dangles about as low as your balls.
Great honor, man. Nikki Haley even supported Rhino Paul Ryan's 2011 plan to destroy Medicare, and the very same plan that led Democrat television ads showing Republicans wheeling Granny off the cliff. Remember the Paul Ryan, Granny off the cliff? Well, DeSantis loves Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan really hurt Fox, although they did very well the other night with their wonderful town hall. Yeah. Thank you very much. But
no, they didn't. Like it. God, his ratings suck.
But he's a big Paul Ryan fan. Paul Ryan was a disaster as Speaker. You know?
I have to say, like, you guys have been watching this asshat with me for like 3 years now, 2.5 years. I gotta say, this has got to be the end. This is fucking awful. This is like, we've seen him fade before, but they are just running him fucking ragged. And he's desperately running himself ragged. I don't think anybody has to tell, like, they're probably saying, you gotta get out there. You gotta make sure you gotta get out there, because they're seeing the real polling that doesn't look good nationwide. And they're bullshitting him because you have to give him good news or he won't get out of bed. So that's the juggle that he thinks the number they tell him is he's ahead by 70 points, but you gotta kill it. Otherwise, these people will use any wedge they can to get at you. And he's like, yeah. And then it gets up. But the real polls, they're like, fuck, if this asshole doesn't hit every corner of the state, there's a real chance that Haley and DeSantis will split the state with a bigger chunk than he's got. And his followers are all fucking rural. They have a longer drive to get in, whereas DeSantis and Haley have really been hitting the cities, the towns in Iowa, and the suburbs around there. That's where their strength is. And those people don't have to travel as far to be a part of the caucus. So, I mean, but he's a fucking wreck. And I don't know when. This was Indianola, so this was probably his third one that day.
When Nancy Pelosi was there, she had subpoenas stacked up on both sides of her desk. And any congressman could walk in and just take one. With Paul Ryan, he had no subpoenas. Congressmen had go in and beg them. Say, Paul, we need it. It's so bad. No. Come back and see me in 2 weeks. Come back. He would never. I don't think he issued one subpoena in all the time. And with crazy.
What the fuck are you talking about? Something about your sub-penis? What? All right. Yeah. There's a certain point where I don't want you guys in the audience to feel bad. Don't feel bad. You're like, because it's the same thing I do. I keep trying to go, well, I think he's talking about this. I think he's referencing this. But at certain points, you're like, no, this is just completely fucking untethered. This is no relation to anything reasonable. This is just, it is okay. I'm giving you permission. It is okay to be fucking confused. Because this is just gibberish. This is just horse shit. Yeah. This is like he's hotboxing all of his followers.
Nancy, she's crazy. And by the way, I offered her 10,000 troops.
No, he didn't.
For January 6th, and I did that 3 or 4 days in advance.
No, he didn't.
And now they've terminated, they've destroyed all of the evidence in that
No, they haven't. It's all on the website. It's all still there.
J6 committee of thugs and bad people.
The thugs and bad people. Okay, well, it's good that he makes the distinction between thugs and bad people, because I guess there are some, I wouldn't say good thugs, but some sort of like mid-level thugs that'll let it slide.
But we offered her 10,000. If she would have used 500, you wouldn't have had, because that was a very tiny fraction of.
Well, they would have had to shoot a bunch of your supporters.
Could be 1 million. It was biggest crowd I ever spoke before. A tiny fraction, you wouldn't have had a problem at all, but she turned it down. And she is the reason that you had that problem. She turned.
No, she did not stand on the fucking steps going, fuck you maggots, come and take my democracy, you pieces of shit. She was inside filming a democracy, like her Yeah, her daughter was filming a documentary about her, about like, fuck, we made it through. He got kicked, he lost, and now he's gonna fucking go. And today's the day when we finalize these votes. And she was the longest sitting, like the first female Speaker of the House, and one of the longest sitting ever. I think Hastert was longer, which should tell you something about the Republicans versus Democrats. That's what they were filming. She didn't pick a fucking fight. She didn't give a shit about you.
Turned it down, and the mayor turned it down, and the mayor turned it down in writing.
And the mayor turned it down and rioting.
Turned it down, and the mayor turned it down, and the mayor turned it down in writing. She said,
In writing. I think he means in. Fuck me. He tricked me into it again. I'm trying to make sense of it.
no, we're not going to do that. And she said she didn't like the look. I said, look, if they don't want to do it. And she's in charge of security, by the way. I'm not. The president is not. The Speaker of the House is in charge of the Capitol of security, which a lot of people don't know because you don't get the facts. And peacefully and patriotically was not even mentioned. Whenever they talk about my speech, they leave the words peacefully. It was called peace.
Yeah, but because that was about the walk down there and have your voice heard. But if Mike Pence doesn't do the right thing, you're going to have to be stronger. We won't have a country left. And these people, are destroying our country. That part was afterward. So again, it's don't fire until you see the whites of their eyes is not an order to not fire.
Peacefully and patriotically.
And by the way, some of these motherfuckers think it's patriotic to attack police officers.
Paul Ryan was a disaster. A total.
Paul Ryan wasn't there that day. I don't know what to tell you. Like he was the speaker, and then John Boehner, and then I think Nancy Pelosi, and then back to Nancy Pelosi, and no one knows what the fuck you're talking about.
Disaster. Real rhinos. I call him a super rhino.
Do you? Well, rhino means Republican in name only. What do the SUPER mean? Is it SUPA-rhino? Do you? You call them super rhinos because insulting them by calling them rhinos, which is basically liars and hypocrites, isn't enough. Okay. All right. Well, hey, who the fuck am I? Call them whatever the fuck you want. Obviously, they're, they're in your party.
And unlike Ron and Nikki, we will always protect Medicare and Social Security for our great seniors. We're not going to hurt our seniors. We're not going to do it. We have so many other things we can do.
There's so many other people we can hurt.
Nikki Haley also supported a 23% national sales tax. So you go out and buy something. And how is that on the middle class? And
okay. Instead of an income tax, they're talking about a VAT tax, value-added tax. They bring this shit in. Oh, God.
How about lower income people? The whole thing is ridiculous, and she fought it really hard. She wanted it and fought for it really hard. In short,
she fought it, and then she fought for it, and she wanted it. She wanted it really hard. Did she?
Radical left Democrats would chew her up and eat her alive. And what they're doing now?
Okay. Real quick.
Left Democrats would chew her up and eat her alive. And what they're doing now is they're supporting her in New Hampshire.
But before they chew her up, well, I guess they're fattening her up for the kill, I guess. They're supporting her, kind of, it's a cookbook. Right.
And Koch is supporting her, who's just nothing but a super rhino globalist version. Ask
the guy, Shemp Coke, whatever, the one that's still alive. He doesn't mean the beverage. Super rhino globalist sloop. Just use whatever insult you can. Just fucking, what do I have? I have this bucket full of shitty. None of these really stick though. Thack. That didn't work. Thack. Globalist. Thack. I usually only use that one for no? Okay. Well, how about like that? No?
yourselves, who does the radical left and the Washington swamp fear more? Nikki Haley, Ron DeSanctimonious, or President Donald J. Trump? I can tell you right now.
I gotta say, if you're talking about quote unquote the radical left, like for real, the Susan Sarandon, Jimmy Dore, TYT, far left crowd or whatever, they don't fear this asshole at all. They assume he's going to destroy the country, which in their kind of weird apocalyptic utopian idea that for them to rebirth the society they want, the old one has to be destroyed and utterly, no matter who it hurts. So technically speaking, I mean, Susan Sarandon's one of the ones that came to his defense. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the far left likes you a little bit better. I don't think they fear you. I think they probably fear Nikki Haley the most because she's female and she's a woman of color and she might be able, in their mind, to sneak stuff through. And Ron, I know he's not really one, but he poses as one, is my point, as far as Jimmy.
I didn't even used to answer their phone calls. When Coke would call up, I say, forget it, because I thought he was so bad for our...
Well, yeah, I don't know, bullshit. They cut him off. This was all this remote was paid for by Coke money, and click. Yeah, that was the end of that one. You're watching Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show. This is the clips as we find them, folks. We're not adding anything to it. We're not taking anything away. Now, do I want to? Yeah, I want to. Let's jump around because this one caught my eye and I have to do it. And I'm sorry for those people that fucking can't stand this dude, because I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with you. This is, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that don't know, this is Glenn Beck. And I don't know why the fucking screen is the way it is. But war before election day is the plan. And by the way, one of the only reasons I show Glenn Beck is not because he says anything particularly pithy or interesting, but that he is sort of representative of an actual collective thought on the right. That if you see him say it, there's dozens of other people saying it, he's either the last to get it before it hits kind of the semi-mainstream, or he's the impetus for, the early part of it, and he rides some stupid fucking talking point forever. So this is the play. Is Biden leading us into another war as an election scheme?
Thomas Massey is with us, who was just on CNN questioning the intelligence of some of the anchors there. I don't know how you could possibly do that, Thomas Massey.
Well, I just questioned their preparedness. Now, I never questioned that about you or your staff. But...
Yeah, because never ask a question you already know the answer to, and yeah.
And we're the ones you should, really, really.
No, she claimed she referenced 19 different things I had voted on and claimed she had spent a whopping 2 minutes studying one of them, and it made her an expert.
Real quick, Massey. Understand, I'm as a fellow Kentuckian, I just want to give you the heads up. This dumb motherfucker reads news articles that are put on the screen in front of him by his staff as if he has read them before, when he has not. Just for the record, he reads them even though there's a camera on him and you can see that he has never seen the article before. Sometimes he's even dumb enough to mention it. He reads it out loud and he reads it to his listeners on the radio as if they're stupid for not knowing it. Just to clarify.
Okay, we want to talk to you about what's happening overseas with the Houthis.
Speaking of things that these guys don't know anything about.
I'm really torn on this because...
Getter 9, I'm sorry I've made you dream about Glenn Beck. I'm so sorry. I hope it was hilarious. Did he look like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man when he was attacking New York?
Because I feel as though we are backing into yet another war.
That's not how you enter a war. I understand it would be uncomfortable if you did.
Drop your shorts and bend over, Mr. Babar.
Moon River.
It's Operation Moon River.
I also think there are people in this administration that want war. I also know that this administration continues to send money over to Iran. So, our literal enemy in this, we're helping fund. So this isn't serious.
No, we're not. No, we aren't. We are not literally sending money over to Iran. We aren't.
On anybody's part. However, they are shooting at us, launching missiles
The Houthis
at our Navy, and aren't we defending ourselves? How should we look at this?
Okay, so the Houthis, just so you know, well before we fired on them at all, along with the UK and again Australia and like the Netherlands and other countries backing us up as well. They were firing on civilian ships. They hit like over 20 ships. Okay, and we waited. We literally the only time we fired on any Houthis directly up to that point was when a ship that had been hit twice in the same day sent out a distress call. Our helicopters responded because they were, they'd already taken some people hostage on another ship, and our guys showed up, and those guys, the Houthis, fired on our helicopters, and our helicopters did what our helicopters do when someone fires on them. Right? Yes, they hit a U.S. cargo ship today, and didn't damage it. By the way, it kept on its way. So. We didn't jump straight into this. We didn't like the first attempt at a ship that was tangentially related to an ally or whatever. We didn't. You're like, finally, which page of the Project for a New American Century Middle Eastern Plan do we go through? Bang, strike hard, first strike hard, no mercy, sir. It's the Cobra Kai doctrine. No, we literally were like, knock it off, fucking knock it off. They fired missiles at Israel. They fired missiles at us. They fired missiles in, I think even into Saudi Arabia. And we're literally batting them out of the sky, just shooting them down, not bombing or hitting anybody. And they fired on us. And we'll talk about the two Navy SEALs. Although they're two sailors. I don't know that they're Navy SEALs. That's one of the debate or whatever. For those of you who don't know, two Navy sailors are missing off the coast of Somalia because people were, the Houthis were getting weapons from Somalia, and they were interdicting ships in that area, the Navy was, and in a boarding operation, two Navy seamen fell into the ocean. They have not been found yet. One fell in and the other right after him. The question is, were they fired upon? Did they get shot and fall, or did they just, it was very choppy water. There's a lot going on there, but that was closer to Somalia, not directly related, was not Houthi related, was not on that side of the sea. It's very specific. Yeah. So, they are still looking for them. These are two men who fell overboard during, this ship to ship incursion. So anyways, we waited until they fired on us to fire back on them. And then we didn't even fire after, just this exchange of gunfire from these three ships. There were four boats, four Houthi boats. Three of them were sunk, and one of them fled. We did not chase the one that fled and blow it out of the sea. We didn't kill them. We allowed them to flee. We just they left the area. That was enough. That's all. That was the mission. And they went away. After that, then you have the Houthis firing missiles at one of our ships. And that's when we returned fire and basically just destroyed their ability to get them to stop doing all this shit. To wit, they fired, I think, two more things because they had other areas, and we hit those, and then that's basically been it since. The Houthis are not, okay, there's some question, and Ro Khanna talked about this, and I would expect him to know better. But Ro Khanna was saying, before you go to war, and I've seen this a bunch, KK Kalinske did the same shit. You have to declare war on a country before you go to war with that country. Okay, first of all, the Houthis are not the government of that country. They're not recognized as the government of that country. We are not at war with Yemen. We did not fire on Yemen. We fired into, specifically, Houthi-controlled areas where their military sites were. That's it. We did not, any more than, I suppose, if you... in clear and present danger. Remember when they hit the training camp, the Irish training camp that was in Afghanistan? That's not attacking Afghanistan. That's hitting the training camp that's there because there's no part of that that's related to the government. The Yemenis thanked us for hitting the Houthi areas. Just for the record, the Houthis have been starving people, enslaving them. They take child brides and child soldiers. They're fucking awful. So we hit those places, and that's been that. And what these folks are saying is that this is an example, and it's been like any other anti-terrorist excursion or intervention we've done in the past, hitting ISIS or some other group when they've fired on civilians or sent suicide bombers into an area or fired missiles, any of that shit. We've done that tons of times. during Trump, they did it a bunch of times. He was beating his fucking chest all the time. And Trump, for the record, killed Qasem Soleimani in Iraq on his way to the airport. This was not a guy who was going from one place to give orders to blow something up. There was nothing like inherently dangerous about him at that very moment. He's a terrible human being. No one should ever mourn his passing. But let's be abundantly clear that that was an absolute provocation and arguably, talk about like just green lighting the assassination of leaders in countries. It's like fucked up. Meanwhile, Biden hits just military targets after they have fired multiple missiles at our warships and at civilian craft, and then they did it again. So anyways, yeah, the U.S. has not declared war since World War II. Well, yeah, but we also have been, technically speaking, not at war with any nation state since then. Because again, this is the part Ro Khanna should know. If they wanted to vote about whether we should go to war with the Houthis, in Yemen, that we should declare war on Yemen or officially declare war, you would have to, before you did that, you would have to have another vote. Does anybody know what the other vote would have? Before you could vote to declare war on the Houthi areas or Yemen, do you know what the vote, you'd have to have a vote before that to make that happen? Anybody? Yes, exactly. Twisted Stepsister gets it right. You would have to legally recognize the Houthis as the government of Yemen. It's like saying to fight ISIS in Syria, you would have to resolve that ISIS is the government of Syria to fire back at them. Yeah, you'd have to recognize them as the government for you to declare war, because you can't declare war on somebody. You couldn't declare war on the fucking mafia. Does that make sense? Doesn't work that way. Iraq is a nation state. That is true. Different issue, though. That's why they had to go to the UN and all that's bullshit. And by the way, I will not side with that action. I think there's a very distinct difference between what was done in Iraq, and that's why I protested against it. I think a lot of you did as well. There's a very distinct difference between Iraq as a country, which even if you don't like the leadership, had a leadership, and Afghanistan, which is just a tribal area that includes 12 tribes of basically warring groups. That's not really, the borders are established by how far other countries don't want to go. That's different. Those are two different situations. And I would say this is much more akin to to Afghanistan in that regard. Hitting a terrorist training camp in Afghanistan. You don't have to declare war on Afghanistan to bomb a terrorist training camp. Yeah. Well, the Mexican drug cartels are different because they're not technically a political movement. They are not seeking to control specifically through politics, and they have no version of a sort of a legal option. There is no legal option for them to, I guess, carry drugs into other countries and make money that way. Whereas politically, you have other options besides terrorism. Yeah. So, anyways, like you can get far into the point overall is that this asshole's painting this like forever war shit around both us supporting Israel or supporting Ukraine, which are wars while we are supporting allies we are not in, right? We are not in those wars. We are helping those folks, but we do not have boots on the ground. We do not have soldiers there. We are not patrolling the skies. We do not we are not giving them Overwatch. We are not providing snipers. We are not providing aircraft, bombers, fucking radar, none of that shit. We're giving them some intel and gear, and that's it. But there are no physical people involved in this, which is, again, ask anybody who was deployed in Afghanistan or Iraq, the difference. Yeah, serving bogus. CSL. Yep, serving in bogus Bush Desert Storm is why I left the USAF afterwards. Right. Well, because it matters who's sending you out. Right. Matters who's deploying you and what their standard is. And again, we didn't drop troops on the ground in fucking Yemen. We did not invade the Houthi areas of that, nor are we going to. And anybody who's like, this is what Glenn Beck is trying to do. Glenn Beck is suddenly becoming this like trying to scoop up the faux peacenik bullshit about the military-industrial complex thing, because it's a good internet talking point. He doesn't believe it, though.
Well, first of all, you should look at it as this is election season. And when you're at war, there's a greater tendency to vote for the commander-in-chief who's waging the war. And I am worried that he's going to draw us into a war with this. Now, I believe that he has an obligation to come to Congress, and I think he had time to do it if he had time.
You are wrong.
To organize an international coalition, or at least with Great Britain, to pull this off. He had time to come to us.
He didn't have to come to you. And if he came to you, it would be news that he was asking for permission to strike these things, these places, which are like terrorist launch sites, and that would give them time to move them. And the snail's pace with which the Republicans are operating, at this point, you'll have a hard time convincing me that at least a couple of them aren't sympathetic to the Houthis firing on our ships and on container ships. The Marjorie Taylor Greens, the way they have sided against Ukraine so thoroughly and so pro-Russia, and since Iran and Russia are like this, and Russia's on top like that, or maybe the other way around, the two of them, there's more than two of them that would be involved in this, that would bring it up and bring it to the floor and drag it on, and by the time we strike the sites, they've moved their shit, and it's made them ineffective. It's just silly.
And the war powers.
Okay, sorry. Iowa caucus results due at 5:45 our time. All right, yeah, we might roll into that. We'll see what the caucus is going on here.
Act
Thanks,
requires him to do that. It allows him to respond defensively in the case of emergency, but that would be like an imminent attack. It wouldn't be something where you plan, some kind of retaliation for things that have gone on for months.
Okay. First of all, these aren't things that have gone on for months. They were firing on the ships. That was what we were letting happen. They just fired on our ship. They have the capability of doing it. They also fired missiles and drones at Israel, which is an ally, which you guys used to give a fuck about until it became politically disadvantageous, apparently. And I mean Republicans in this particular case. So the idea that they did fire on us, it was timely. The coordination, by the way. All right, can we just swipe away our bullshit naivete for a second and talk as fucking grown-ups? You're, whoever you are out there watching an intertube land, I'm the president of the United States and you're the queen of the Netherlands. And the person sitting next to you is the king of England. And the prime minister of go flagellate yourself here. And we are all aware that food and stuff that doesn't get through that area and through the Suez Canal, we're going to be fine. But a lot of poor people are going to starve to death, and a lot of oil isn't going to get where it's going, and a lot of people are going to be directly affected by this. And while we might have, a dent in our economy because of it, a lot of fucking other people will die. And that will create refugees, and those refugees will storm to the borders of their countries, and that storming to the borders will cascade into sectarian violence and all that shit, right? And we know this, and things are getting hot in that part of the world, and they're trying to block these ships, and we're batting their shit away. But there's an argument about, okay, what happens if they step past this point? What do we agree on? What do we all feel is valuable? If they hit one of our ships or one of your ships, we got to respond. Are you guys in or not? Yes. Okay. So we make that decision. The hit doesn't come for a few days, right? A week and a half later, it does ratchet up. We're batting these dickheads away. They fire on one of our helicopters. We fire on them. Then they fire a missile at one of our ships, and we're like, fuck that. Boom. That was the argument. The idea that somehow the minute they fired a missile at one of our ships, that was when we were like, oh, fuck, I didn't know they were going to do this. How could, look at this. How did this happen? Like, you don't think they fucking have a strategy of like, if this happens, this happens. If this happens, this happens. If this happens, this happens. This is what the fuck a Pentagon is for. You think we're the only ones with a Department of Defense in that regard? Are you out of your fucking mind? They did not just run to England and go, hey, it's 3:00. You guys want to, the UN gave us the go ahead to tell these guys to fuck off. Do we? you guys want to hang for like a week? Or because they just fired at us. I didn't even think about what we would do then. It's just dumb. It's childish. And the idea that these assholes want any situation where, Biden's making a decision, they're going to fucking second guess it. Meanwhile, somebody pointed out that on, in Trump's first deployment, a Navy SEAL died. To them, that's like, well, you can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs.
So
the war. Can we talk about the War Powers Act here for a second? Because
fuck off.
I believe the War Powers Act is correct in a world where we have missiles. If somebody's launching a missile, the president does not have time to go to Congress and say, hey, I want to make my case here that in 12 minutes we're all going to be vaporized. However, like you said, it's been 90 plus days since this happened. We've watched it happen. They've been...
No. Oh, no. Hold on one second. It's going to be trade operations overseas in Middle East waters. Can report the port vessel hit from above by a missile. Okay, this is the most recent one. Hold on. There was one other. So this is, hold on. Boink. Now, because they've just fired another one. Let's see. It's Sunday. It's the Sunday one. Trying to find the actual date of the. Yeah. So, anyways, this is, first of all, let's just be abundantly clear. They have the capacity to fire all the way to Israel. They have missiles that can go 1,000 miles. The Houthis fired the first missile that was ever shot down in space because it literally went up high enough where we had to shoot it down up there. We're aware of their range. They have absolutely the ability to do it. And then they fired a couple of missiles at us that didn't fly far enough. They landed short of their target, largely because our ships knew where they were coming, could tell how far, and they maneuvered out of the way. And they were fired from inside the country, so their travel time was, was such that we could tell what their trajectory would be, where they would land. They were relatively dumb in that regard, and so we were able to move the ship. That's more than likely what happened. The other thing is that then they fired an anti-ship ballistic missile fired toward the southern Red Sea commercial shipping lanes. And then the earlier missile failed in flight, impacted on land in Yemen. There were no injuries or damage reported by them. This is in Sana'a. And the latest attack on commercial shipping came a day after CENTCOM said it had shot down an anti-ship cruise missile fired by the Houthis toward the American warship USS Laboon as it operated in the Red Sea. It was the first acknowledged attack by the Houthis on a U.S. warship since the U.S. and U.K. military started. Since then, let's see, they have the other one, targeting commercial vessels, claiming his legitimate response to Israel's ongoing war with Palestine, the militant group Hamas, which is bullshit. It's like if I start shooting or I start robbing banks, and I tell the police I'm going to stop robbing banks as soon as you solve the homelessness problem. Is that it? And by the way, this is the best part. Are you going to take the money you're stealing from the banks and give it to the homeless? No, not at all. Actually, we're stealing the money and setting it on fire. So you're not, that money, those people are insured. They'll get their money back, right? But you're going to steal the money and you're not giving it to the homeless. No, we're not giving it to them. What are you going to do? We're going to either keep it ourselves and use it to fund our military stuff, or we're going to just destroy it like the Joker. Yeah.
They've been fighting and shooting against us, et cetera, et cetera. The president has a responsibility to go in front of the American people and Congress and make his case, and Congress needs to decide.
Okay, fuck you. Where was this talk when Trump assassinated Soleimani? Half of this dust up came from Trump assassinating Soleimani, handing over the Golan Heights, recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, and moving the embassy there. He was like slapdash was in the middle. Why won't anybody do this? Well, fuck it. Let's just do it all. And then you find out why, but not on your watch. It's, they hunker down and they decide, okay, U.S. policy has just switched on to scorched earth. Fuck us. We're back to the Bush doctrine essentially, and we've got no other option but to just murder everything in our, because they're never even the trustworthy parts. It's just a setup. It's what we do. It's what they do.
Correct.
Absolutely. You are
Gibberish.
Absolutely correct. We have abdicated, though, our authority. We've been involved in Yemen. Here's what I don't see reported in the news. Since about 2015. And in 2018, I teamed up with Ro Khanna and tried to get a war powers resolution passed to get us back out of Yemen. This was in 2018. Paul Ryan.
Yeah. Okay. First of all, we're not in Yemen. What Massey was trying to do, and I suppose trying to get Ro Khanna in on it, was stop our humanitarian aid to Yemen, because we've given $5.8 billion to Yemen in an attempt effectively to stave off the starvation that was happening there, and to some degree, I suppose, bribe the peace a little bit. What Massey wanted to do was stop us giving that money, and essentially, once that money dries up, then the Yemenis, who are the ones we are actually supporting with food and other stuff, not military aid, but food, would it result in those people getting wiped out by the Houthis, who are backed by Iran, have all the food and weapons they could possibly want.
Did a parliamentary trick. He hid the vote on our war powers resolution in the farm bill. And then, so people voted for the farm bill and put our war powers resolution to bed. So we tried again, and he hid it in the Manage Our Wolves Act. If you voted for the Manage Our Wolves Act to come to the floor of the House, you voted against the Ro Khanna Thomas Massey war powers resolution, according to the War Powers Act, to get us out of Yemen.
Think of this. Our Congress is voting on management of wolves, but not whether or not we go to war.
Okay, no. That's not an alternative reality. We do not stop being a country so that we can deal with other shit. It's not an either or, motherfucker. And by the way, let's be abundantly clear. Understand what this dumbass does for a living. And then understand that he picked out his sweater for the day and his little shirt, and he got, somebody comes in and squeegees the spittle off of his fucking mic and wrings out the fucking pop filter on it every night, and defarts Stu's chair every evening, and he goes out and has dinner, brought to him or some shit. That all happens while at the same time he comes on the show and argues about shit he has no idea about. He manages to do that. Look at it as sort of him wiping his own ass as the wolf management part, and this as his personal war with his own vocabulary in terms of speaking into this microphone. The idea that the United States can't deal with our domestic issues and our foreign issues, and the reason we're not voting on whether or not we go to war, whatever, this is ages ago. This is not about, oh God, he's going to even understand.
Correct. And then,
No, not correct. It's a terrible analogy. It's fucking stupid.
A year later, we were able to get it to the floor.
Oh, really? You were able to get it to the floor?
Passed it in the House. We followed, I don't even agree completely with the War Powers Act that was passed in the 1970s, especially not the interpretation that people have of it. But we were able to get a resolution passed to get us out of Yemen in 2019. And then it went from the House to the Senate, and they passed it with 53 votes. But Donald Trump vetoed it. Now, to get us out of Yemen in 2019. And then it went from the House to the Senate, and they passed it with 53 votes. But Donald Trump vetoed it. Now, it was, it's within his authority to veto it, but that demonstrated to me how ridiculous the War Powers Act is, because it effectively...
It didn't demonstrate to you how, I guess, ridiculous Donald Trump is, or...
It takes 2/3 of us to override a president's veto. So what...
Oh, man. It's your guy. You do realize this whole argument is shit unless it ends with, and Biden vetoed it.
What it means is the War Powers Act, if you believe in it, with 33% of Congress, the president can go to war because it takes 2/3 to stop him. It's
No, it doesn't. Okay, we weren't at war in Yemen. The curtailment of that particular bill wasn't about declaring war in Yemen. We were not at war with Yemen. We never were. There was never even an idea that we were. This is just fucking stupid. It's wholly unrelated. And if it is, if you took everything as these assholes said it, understand what this asshole is trying to say is that we were nearing going to war in 2015. Donald Trump took us fully into war in Yemen while he was president and left us there. And we're still there. Because, again, we amongst, with a bunch of other countries, have been trying to stave off the utter starvation in Yemen and trying to buy the peace with the Yemeni government.
ridiculous.
Don't me. React as if you just found out, what you did, that Donald Trump is the one who vetoed that.
So what are you hearing up on the Hill about all of this? Where are we headed, Thomas?
This is what you're seeing here is a grown man who realizes that he has hit an absolute wall on his ideology. That the minute Thomas Massey said that it was Trump that kept us in Yemen and that reinforced the doctrine that allows presidents to bomb Yemen, I suppose, that's the minute he said Trump vetoed it, his argument is dead in the water. So where do you go after that? Where literally you look at the ceiling and you go, where are we? Where am I?
I mean, I am worried that we're going to be expanding conflicts in the Middle East.
An adult human being who loves their country and actually believes in their constitution and has, fucking any brains at all, would be worried that others would escalate things in the Middle East. That other countries, after we've said knock it off a dozen times and have not fired on them, would stop firing at us. I hope they learn their lesson. But we are not ratcheting up when we respond. A rape victim who shoots the person who is attacking them is not escalating the violence. That's not how it works. If you're the one being attacked, and in this particular reason for completely bullshit rando reasons, the idea that the Houthis are bombing civilian cargo ships with people from fucking Bahrain and India and Japan and on them because of the Palestinians, like they give a duck fuck, is an absurdity. And the idea that we would sit there and let them fire on civilian ships when we can stop them because, they're on the right side of history when they're A, not, and B, full of shit.
This is there's some people up here that are just begging for a war with Iran, and
gee, I wonder what party that is. Is a party that they put together. I'm gonna have to go way back. There was one. As a matter of fact, I think one of their presidential candidates once sang a song jokingly, bomb, 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 bomb Iran, making a reference to in his party That was a regular refrain. Also, you're watching House Sparks Mega Worldwide. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show, if you will. Patreon.com/HouseSparks.
Whether it's something that grows out of Gaza or whether it's something that grows out of Yemen. And I think we need to take a step back and look at this and say, is that in the best interest of our country to have a full-blown war with Iran? And I'm worried that this president...
No. And that's not what this is. Here's an idea. Do you have any idea what it would take for Iran to think it's a good idea to have a full-blown war with the United States? Think seriously. Look, these kind of big fights between two countries always bad, especially one, they've got a relatively serious navy and a relatively serious air force, the Iranians, but nowhere near the level that they would need to go anywhere near what we are capable of by any measure. And we wouldn't be alone, because we would be fighting to protect civilian ships and the citizens in those areas and our own lives and our own people's lives. They would be fighting to choke off the traffic in the Red Sea. That's it. That's what they're fighting for. Okay, another thing, real quick. I got to show you. Hold on. We'll go back up to you guys, up to here. Give me 1 second. Let's see if this is... No, I have it. I know I have it in here somewhere. Hold on. Oh, it's in my... Yeah, here you go. So the Iranians... Yeah. In 2018... the Iranians lost one of their biggest military ships. And then let me make this other one too. Okay, yeah, here's two. Okay. 2018. You want to see a picture of the Iranians' biggest military ship that they have / had? Here it is. This is the Karg. Which, I mean, it's a little Klingon for me, but the Karg right there used to look like that, and then it looked like that, and they were a couple. I mean, they've had their tankers hit as well, but this one started with a fire in the galley, yeah. And meanwhile, the Syrians, were drone striking Iranian ships all through this area. Only thing we can say is the fire has started inside the ship. In that sense, it looks different from the others, which is these other, where these other ones were checked. The Saviz, which is this ship, this guy right here, which was used as a military base, was attacked, I believe, by Israeli commandos who didn't sink it. They just crippled it, essentially, right? In this funny little area, that shit right in there, all this stuff. There's the Saviz has been observed holding patterns across the Red Sea and off the coast of Yemen. That's this guy right here. And then it got attacked. It got a hole blown in the side. And everybody thinks it was Israeli commandos because they were using it as, they were basically threatening Israel with it. Yeah, and then this was off of Djibouti. U.S. and Saudi announced, however, asserts that the vessel is an important naval asset operated by Iran's Revolutionary Guard. The Saviz, they said this. They kept telling everybody in the world that this was just a tanker, but it was a tanker that just loitered, and then boats would come out to it, pick up weapons, and then leave. It was a gun tanker. Thanks, Rex. Glad you noticed my Flynn shirt. So this is pretty common, by the way. This is also how how Hamas gets a lot of their weapons is that this ship and others like it from Iran, and they do this throughout in Somalia and parts of Africa. Every time that they're trying to like drop off weapons to Iranian-backed militias, they have one of these ships come down there and just kind of loiter like around in the sea, and then smaller boats come out and pick up their weapons and then go back. And off the coast of Gaza, what they would do is they would have these smaller boats come out and they would just drop like these I don't know, like big crates full of weapons and shit wrapped in plastic off the side of the boat, and then Hamas divers would come out and pick the shit up. Yeah, it's a floating bookmobile for weapons. That's exactly right, Mike. And it got blown up essentially. It didn't sink, I don't think. I think they just wounded it and it had to leave the area. But the idea is that, and this is interesting because whatever you think of whether or not this fire was internal to it, this did not happen because the Israelis did it by anybody's measure. It happened inside the boat itself. So this was another, maybe they had Russian crew and they were smoking too close to something. But in terms of this one, they absolutely, it was definitely sabotage from the exterior. It was definitely a bomb. Oh, excellent. It was definitely a bomb attached to the hull and all that kind of stuff. They think it was Israeli commandos, and it makes sense. But this guy, this is their own damage, and this is the one that I don't know if do they have a picture? Yeah, they don't have a picture of it, like kind of, but it survived. Like they didn't sink the ship. They just made it useless. That's what the Israeli special forces did. They just made it unseaworthy, as it were, if that's a word, and it had to return to port and be repaired, as opposed to just blowing it out of the fucking water. Same shit. Anyways, also, just for the record, anybody who, if you're pro-Russia, you're pro-slavery. Period. Just for the record. I just want you to know that. If you're on the side of Russia in this, in the battle with Ukraine or fucking anywhere else, you're pro-slavery. They have been working with the RSF and helping them round up children and child soldiers and locals and forcing them to fight as cannon fodder. They have been abducting their own migrants in their country and forcing them to go to war in Ukraine. It's fucked up. A lot of people believe that the explosion that happened at that big factory in St. Petersburg is because the people there were sick of being rounded up. That they set that fire and bugged out. Yeah. So, also, let's see. Yeah, there we go. These are the folks that Russia backs, just for the record. Sudan Sea surge in child soldier recruitment as fighting continues. This is from Al Jazeera. This is a day ago. This particular story is about a kid, this guy right here, who was, he's 16 years old, and he was taken by the RSF. Yeah, he was carrying goods and captured by the paramilitary RSF, who forced him to, let's see, I'm sorry, I can't, to work for them. Yeah, they beat him up. They captured him. He managed to escape because they had him on a boat, on a raft, basically, and they were taking him to another part of the country, and or a truck rather. Beg your pardon. I'm thinking of another story. He was on a truck, and these guys stopped to take a piss or something like that, and he just jumped out and ran as far as he fucking could, and he managed to survive. So, just, Meanwhile, also, if you're supporting Hamas, I don't know if you remember this girl from the motorcycle. They made her prepare a video saying that 2 of the other people with her had been killed, and they still have her. According to people who have been freed, she has been sexually assaulted multiple times. It is an ongoing horror that she is in, and they keep saying, unless you stop the bombing, you'll find out what her fate is. Just saying. Yeah. So, back to these guys. Hold on. This is this dipshit.
President would like to have something hot going on before the election or during the election.
And by the way, you can tell how inserious someone is by them flippantly saying, yeah, a war just to win an election, on this scale especially. The Wag the Dog thing, there was a reason why the Wag the Dog idea, no one supports the Hamas. Yes, they do, Kimchi. I'm not saying any of you do, but there are absolutely people who do. And again, same thing with from the river to the sea. That's what that means. They want a one-state solution, not a two-state solution, and it's not equal rights. They want a Jew-free Palestine, and that means Israel. So that's the same thing. If you're saying I don't support Hamas, but you support that, then you support by any means to get to that, and what's the difference? Anyways, point being, the Wag the Dog idea, which has been around, it was like kind of almost made big during Clinton. It got laid off on him, even though largely I think the idea about it as a real election strategy was around George H.W. Bush, right? That with both the 11-day Iraq War and any number of smaller incursions and that kind of shit. So, in particular, these folks. Well, hold on. Let me make sure that we're still on track.
Well, the national intelligence agencies came out today and warned that that Hezbollah has assets here in America, and that they're concerned that this could mean a direct strike here in the homeland, which
is a concern. There's a difference between, again, this is where these guys, if you hear this and you go, somehow this is completely plausible, that someone's concerned about this or worry about it or expectation that there might be some, because there are assets everywhere. It's a huge fucking country we live in, that the chances that there being somebody that wants to do something awful is definitely a possibility. There's a huge difference between that potential and that being, strategically something that you have to respond to.
I don't think would play.
Oh, sorry. Was there sound issues? Okay. And then, yeah. I mean, it's such fucking gibberish, but it's interesting that they'll focus this much on this, but then when we talk about the greatest domestic threat to the homeland being, right-wing extremists and white nationalists and, Michigan militia types, somehow that's just, that's a bridge too far.
Well, for all of those who had an open border.
I mean, this is the big exposure we have at the open border. Not only are we going to economically destroy our country by bringing so many illegal immigrants into the country so quickly, it's so poor.
I would say, so first of all, it's nice of you to think that I suppose if we slowed down how many illegal people got into the country, that would be economically feasible, which sounds like somebody who wants all the migrant labor, but without all those pesky regulations. So that's right. There's no such thing as OSHA when you're not here legally. That's right. Fuck you and any job protections. If you prick your finger picking strawberries or something like that, or get a splinter or whatever and it gets infected, we just dump you across the border. Like, that's terrific. Meanwhile, first of all, there's no indication that the volume of people crossing the border, even at its height, is going to negatively impact our economy in any way. As a matter of fact, we don't have enough workers.
That Hezbollah can walk across the border, and
no, they can't.
No doubt they are here. They could activate. I mean,
oh, really? Is that do we know how they activate or whatever? Does someone have a remote control? Are they Manchurian? Do you have to, if someone says Klaatu Verata Nikto, do they automatically start murdering people?
What was it? 15 of the 19 hijackers were
Saudi,
actually from Saudi Arabia.
Which is the opposite of Yemen.
And we're here legally for the most part, I think. But now we're looking at a different threat.
Well, no, that was a real threat. That was a real issue. And you're imagining the possibility of a second threat. That's not the same thing as looking at a threat. The assumption that people are coming across the border and that those that do make it across are violent themselves is a fucking reach.
And it only takes 19 to, do something very bad in this country.
No, I think it takes a lot more than that now. I mean, we have changed a lot since 2001.
Country, as we saw on 9/11.
No, it's not the same on 9/11. Like, nobody could take over a fucking plane with a box cutter now.
Nikki Haley, during the last debate,
Who looks strangely foreign.
basically called you an anti-Semite. Why do you hate the Jews so much?
Oh my gosh! As Ron DeSantis says, that's cheap garbage. And as I tweeted, I'm living rent
Oh, by the way, he's backing DeSantis.
free in her head, and trust me, there's lots of empty space in here. She had
By the way, these are Republicans they're shitting on, and there's no reason why you and I should get in the way of that.
her understanding of the bills that I've been voting on is 1 inch deep. Whereas, Ron DeSantis, even though he and I disagree on this issue, he understands where I'm coming from, and he's not astroturf like Nikki Haley is. This is why she stopped taking questions at town halls. If you go more than one question deep, she doesn't know what she's talking about. But she was attacking me on votes. For instance, I didn't vote for the $14 billion financial package to Israel. Now, we can have a discussion about that, whether we can.
Right. This is going to be a difficult one. That Stu just stiffened up. Is that Pat Gray over there in the hat? Or who the fuck is sitting over there? Does anybody know?
Afford that,
Does it matter?
We should be doing that.
There's not even a camera on him. Like, we get 3 shots. We're not even going to bother to fucking look at Stu during any of this. What the fuck is Stu's job? Does he just read his laptop until the interview is over, and then Beck asks him questions? I don't know. Who the fuck knows?
We're not. She claims that I'm anti-Semitic or anti-Israel because I'm not voting for foreign aid. But here's the thing. I've never voted for foreign aid to any country. I'm not picking on any country. And then there were some resolutions.
I'm not racist. I pick on everybody. I just do it from a position of privilege, so it looks like I'm racist.
Solutions where we can have legitimate disagreements about whether it infringes on free speech. And then there was a vote that I took against a resolution that says anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. Now, it's true that a lot of anti-Semites are against Israel, just by definition. But
Yeah, I'd say, yeah, most of them. All but 2.
But it's not true that if you have harsh criticism of Israel, or even if you don't believe in Zionism, that you are also an anti-Semite.
Well,
because if that were true, there'd be a lot of Jews who are anti-Semite.
I know. I was going to say, a lot of the Hasidic Jews here in America despise Israel, say it's an abomination of a state because it's not a religious state. So are they?
That's because it doesn't go far enough. They're Zionists, but they believe that no one else should be allowed in. That's racism. That's bigotry. Just as a matter of fact, it's point Israel that it doesn't acquiesce to their extremist beliefs. Speaking, and particularly since there's a large chunk of maggots who think that America should be a Christian nationalist state. That doesn't mean we are, because they want it.
Anti-Semites too? No.
No. They're Zionists. They're just proto-Zionists. They're MAGA Zionists.
I don't think so.
That's because it's a stupid analogy and it doesn't apply.
I don't think Gerald Nadler's anti-Semite. He's Jewish. And he spoke against that resolution on the floor.
Okay.
The sad thing is we've had 19 votes like that since our new speaker became speaker. And what we should be focusing on is our own spending bills and cutting spending. Instead, we
stupid Democrat who's... Oh, right.
passed these resolutions, which are frankly political gotchas. The Republicans are trying to use that issue to catch the Democrats up in votes and then use it to get them unelected.
And the only person they managed to catch in that vote was was Thomas fucking Massey.
I just don't have an
Ziontologists. That's what they are. It's a great... That's a great word for them. Ziontologists. I believe that Zion is a place that's in deep space, and you have to get clear before you can go there.
For that, when we should be focused on our fiscal issues. Right now in the House, we are about to throw away all the spending caps that were put in place this summer. I was on your show talking about this, taking heat from you.
Because I said, I remember when I was young and naive.
Yes.
Yes.
It said, I think, and I said, maybe I'm getting fooled here. But Glenn, they're signing it into law. They did. The White House and the Senate put those caps into law.
Yeah.
And now they are undoing the law. We've never got that far. It's kind of Lucy and the football. I mean,
oh my God, what a tired analogy. I'm sorry. I got to tell you, I'm completely bored by this dumb motherfucker. Talk about a circular argument. You have so much to talk about, so much possible. Like, if there was all this Hunter Biden evidence, and if it was clear as day about who was the good guys and who was the bad guys, and when the president should act and when he shouldn't, and he was violating the War Powers Act when he did all this stuff, the conversation should not be this meandering. And I apologize for getting caught up in the meandering aspect of it. That is my fault as a broadcaster. I take that. I beg your pardon, ladies and gentlemen, that I entertained the idea that these assholes would eventually get to a fucking point when the way they talk about it, there are heaps of evidence against Hunter Biden. It is clear as day that Joe Biden is guilty of treason, including his handling of the border. It is we have a porous, open border, which apparently, by the way, I don't know if you know this, but if you have an open border that's allowing in Hezbollah, apparently it would also allow in a bunch of Sunnis and Shias, and I guess they beat the duck fuck out of each other somewhere around El Paso. So I don't know why we have to worry about it. Anyways, so if the border is completely open, if the venom gets through, so does the anti-venom. It's just kind of how it works. But ultimately, these guys are just jabbering because there's no there. They don't have an argument in this. You could even spot how Glenn Beck was talking about this, that he had no actual, he had no negative response to what Biden had done. He floated this half-hearted idea that he's getting us into a war when he actually supports the action itself, right? So that's what happens when you're like, that's proof positive they have no ethics. There is no root governing philosophy there. There is no genuine functioning ideology. It's just it's either contrarianism or sarcasm as an ideology. Because holy fuck, I made the mistake, God help me, of watching one of Glenn Beck's special reports, because we don't really cover them because they're fucking long. And CSL knows this. Jesus, heaven, Gott in Himmel. And I swear, I'm not kidding when I say that it was simply 35 minutes of worthless sarcasm. And I have often said, well, all due respect to verbal irony, that, yeah, well, here you go. I'll show you what I mean. We'll go to this. This is what it looks like. This is Glenn Beck. I'm not going to play this whole thing for you, but this is one of his special reports.
Hello, America. It's time to talk a little bit about what's happening next week, and that is Davos.
Also, this is, I guess, a tee up for his fucking book.
Week, all of the elites, all the super, super smart people who just super, super care about you, your family, your children, who know better than you on what you should eat, what you should do, where you should live.
Right. So, base sarcasm, just contrary language done in a silly voice, and the attempt being to create art, the illusion of comedy, or the illusion of a sense of humor in this particular case, while just being a fucking child.
How many carbon units you should be allowed to have, all of those great things. They're meeting next week, and their topic, the theme of this is rebuilding trust. Because somehow or another.
See, it goes on like this. Here, look.
Lying to us, they're trying to... But these people are filling your head with nonsense. And the world is going in such great directions right now. I mean...
And let me be abundantly clear. Sometimes I catch shit for my attitude towards sarcasm. And let me explain something to you. Verbal irony is the crafting of language in an alternative way to the reality or the circumstance to point out the absurdity of that particular thing. And it is It is a very distinct, functional, comedic endeavor. Sarcasm is just the anti-gainsaying of whatever the person's saying. And it's effectively, I grew up around it in the South all the time, and it's literally when people go, oh, that's great, or like real good, like that's sarcasm. That's the root of sarcasm. And it is very base and not funny. Not funny in the professional sense. Not funny in the sales of the sale of an idea sense, where you're worth watching or doing. It's just get some jokes, tell some jokes, perform some jokes. This just because this ain't funny. This is just anybody can on a fucking bus in Kentucky will do this. Yes, it offends me as a comedian. Absolutely.
You don't have a worry in the world, do you?
See what I mean? Like this is and like it's 30 minutes. Look how long this fucking thing is. I'm not gonna play the whole thing. I watched this whole fucking thing innocently believing that at some point it might kick in and turn into an actual goddamn conversation or a piece of information. It wasn't. It's a half hour of this going, well, that's terrible. Well, actually, it was more like, that's great, isn't it? It's wonderful how they just want to help us all. Like, it was a fucking nonstop. And then, see if I can show you in the middle of this shit. Where is it? And I play clips, and then he responds. Where is it? It's earlier in this. Hold on. I'll find it. He goes into this like, the ad in this is like Patriot fucking Supply. Yeah, here it is. This should give you an indication of just how genuinely full of shit this is.
To the United States. Now, we're going to do a full show on it. I'll tell you in just a second. First, let me tell you about my Patriot Supply.
Okay, so 18 minutes and 31 seconds into this horse shit, he does an ad for fucking prepper food.
It's hard to know if an emergency is going to occur. I mean, what could go wrong? Right?
Can you? It's like literally. It's like buying a car with one gear. I take it being loaned a car with one gear. I would never fucking buy this.
Whether it's something happening directly to you, something in your region, even something
in your region
nationwide, or God forbid something global, what could that be? Well, it's all up in the air. The only guarantee is that crap happens in life. Be prepared for the crap that probably is going to happen.
Probably. Also, the only crap that you can guarantee is going to happen is his fucking show. God damn, I hate these assholes that are like, his entire, yeah, I don't know if it's his entire ethic, because I don't actually know what this fucker believes, but I do know his entire business model is based on paranoia. This is just like gin up paranoia amongst a certain section of the segment of the population, and then sell them prepper food.
Well beforehand, you need to be prepared. That's why my Patriot Supply is so incredibly important.
My Patriot Supply. What can you imagine being such an asshole that you need, like, that your earthquake or your hurricane food, because that's really, if you're gonna use any of this shit, that's what you're gonna use it for, that to call it, that it has to be called my Patriot Supply, like it's a Chinese hurricane.
They help you prepare for the worst ahead, hoping for the best, but just being prepared so it doesn't have to be the worst for you and your family.
No, if it's the end times and I'm just living there, happy as can be. Hold on, I think we have a Patriot Supply user on the line. Let's go to him right now. You goddamn right, man. I got me some. Listen here. I got me some Patriot Supply. I had a coupon. It's not important. Okay. So I was at a truck stop. It was a come and go outside of Des Moines, Iowa. Don't ask, don't tell. Anyways, so I'm leg wrestling this feller, and he tells me he works for the Blaze or something, and he tries to stiff me on the $150 that I beat him out of him in that leg wrestling contest, and he offers me a bunch of fucking pieces of paper with promo codes on them from the fucking Blaze to get me some 40% off of some My Patriot Supply, whatever. And so I'm like, all right, you know what? he doesn't know it, but I picked his wallet when he was leaving. So I used the money that he had on him and his credit card, and I ordered it using the fuck Jesus promo code that I don't know why it's weird, but that's what it was. And anyways, so I order a bunch of stuff from My Patriot Supply. It arrives, and it's fucking majestic. That's the only word I can come up with. It's fucking majestic. It was just a sight to see. These wonderful, glorious blue paint buckets, sealed shut by the finest American craftsmanship and hot glue that you could find this side of the fucking Mississippi. And I got to tell you, part of me in my heart, it was telling me to wait for an emergency, Ficus. And I was like, but it looks so shiny. So, all right, I saved 6 of the tubs for later. I buried them under the house, along with my, what I would effectively call my John Wick kit. Although it's not nearly as shiny and contains no gold coins. It has those chocolate coins or whatever, but they look so good, man. They're supposed to keep. So anyways, so I buried the rest of them. I got one of these tubs, and I'm like, oh, what's in this one? What could it be? It's like you know what? I felt like a dog on Christmas, So I get a screwdriver that I'd stole from my friend Jake, and I pry the fucking top off of it, and I pull it out, and you could just smell it, wafting the smell of pancake batter and black beans, and I think a hint of lavender, maybe, and mayonnaise, and that wonderful scent that brings me back to my childhood, the overwhelming tufts of odor of uncooked hot dogs in brine. And I pull out the instructions, which are wet, but I don't let that bother me. And I get myself a paint stirrer, and I'm reading these things and mushing it all up and that kind of stuff. And then I put it on, I build a nice fire outside. I put the whole bucket on top of that, just all them sausages and the pancake batter and the packet of the bouillon cubes and the vanilla, and I believe some peach cobbler MREs that are in there. I'm just souping it all up and turning it and souping it and turning it like that thing. And just at one point, I got in between. I don't have much of a gag reflex, quite frankly. I have to force it sometimes. You know what I mean? But after what I've been through. But whew, it was some good stuff or whatever. And then, wouldn't you know it, I was like, how am I supposed to eat this? It don't come with utensils. I'm going to be in the fucking end times with this wonderful burgoo of God knows what in this tub, all hot and bubbly and gray and lumpy, waiting to go down and I don't have anything to get it down with. It doesn't come with a ladle. So what I decided to do was, before it got too goddamn hot, is I decided to Kwai-Chang cane that motherfucker and just stick my arms on either side of it, just let it burn that My Patriot Supply into both of my forearms. Still got them burns to this day. And then I hold it up like glug, 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 glug. Just it's sloshing all down me, and occasionally a hot dog bounces off my nose and stuff. It's just, the whole thing was a pleasurable experience. And quite frankly, after about the first half gallon, I don't remember much, which is proof positive to me that I was in such a state of joy that I must have been overwhelmed. Anyways, after they pumped my stomach and they let me out of the hospital, and of course I realized that I'd been in a coma for 2.5 years, and they put me in, I think it was a chemically induced coma. I think technically because of what was in the My Patriot Supply food, it was technically, they called it a chemically induced coma, even though it weren't. I woke up 2.5 years later, and they were like, wow, we're surprised you're alive and that you're just as smart as before you went in. So I was not disappointed. And it was a mere 6.5 hours later that I found myself scrambling to the outhouse. And wouldn't you know it, there was some of that patriotism still gurgling around inside me. that wanted to be free again. And anyways, long story short, we had to burn down the outhouse. And scene. Sometimes he just goes. I don't know what he's going to say. He just says it, you know, and I feel like we all get it. we all get it. Oh, yeah. It's a true story. True story. So, I'm sorry. So, anyways.
Get started today by going to mypatriotsupply.com.
No, I won't do it. I had a friend of mine who went through something terrible. I can't do it. I'm sorry. And I wouldn't buy something called My Patriot Supply from some dude who looks like he skulks around a library trying to skeeve up on teenagers while drinking, you know, his 9th milkshake of the day. I think it's bad. It's a bad idea. All right, now back to you guys. Hi, guys. We love Ficus. Yes, we do. Can Hal do improve? Yes, he can. Oh, improv. I think you meant improv. There's always room for improvement. I think that's the great thing about comedy is that you're never as funny as you're gonna be if you keep working at it. That's what I think. Meanwhile, let's see 1 second. Should we look at? Hold on. Do we have a link for the caucuses? Is this the? There's the updates. We don't have anything yet. Looking good. And it's in. I mean, I think the big question we got to ask is who the fuck is Ryan Binkley? These, by the way, everybody's still in this. There's still 40 delegates are at stake. Ryan Binkley, Chris Christie, he's not in anymore. So who gets his or anybody's guess? DeSantis is debatable whether he's second with Nikki Haley. They're kind of tied for second place. Asa Hutchinson and Vivek, and it says view all can. Okay, there we go. Donald Trump and other. You can vote other. Oh, Hutchinson's out too. Did he drop out today or yesterday? Honest to God. So yeah, this is good. And then these are all the counties. This is where Trump goes, we won all these counties. Like, motherfucker, you won the counties with nobody in them. Shut the fuck up. There's like 3 counties with a real population in them in Iowa. And then the rest of it just land and the farm. And like each one of these squares is like basically a farm with like 8 people who live there. I'm kind of not kidding. It's, yeah. And by the way, that's where the majority of Trump's support is out in the fucking, you know, and there's 99 counties in the state, and apparently DeSantis wanted credit because he went to all of them. He went to all 9 of them. Yeah. So good for you. It's a great, yeah. What could be better? I mean, what a great use of your time. Now, Trump, I think maybe that was one of the ways they actually baited Trump into doing that. I mean, there's a baseline reason why you would go to each county, which is for the bragging rights that you really put the work in. Fine. The other one could also be that you're trying to bait your competitors into not being able to have that bragging rights, and when you have those bragging rights, and when you have somebody like Trump who needs to out brag someone, you can send him, if he doesn't go to all of them, to random places all over the fucking state, which is hilarious. Yeah. So we shall see what we shall see. Now, somebody was saying there's like a CNN has like a 4-window caucus corner of all this shit. We'll see. There we go. Try to find, yeah. Try to find my way. And then I think, let's see real quick, because I think Trump might have posted, we'll see, his bit about, well, here, I'll show you. He had this is it. So he had Donald Trump's Vision for America live from Iowa. This is his little gathering.
President Trump, we are so excited to have you here with us in Iowa
Oh,
tonight.
fuck me.
Thank you. And you've just got
And thank you for the low volume,
a
ma'am.
great group of supporters here in this state. You really do. You really do.
He just farts his way through this. I've seen this. There's no fucking reason. You can needle drop into this shit, but it's the same stuff. Okay, let's see if these guys come in. Is this the live AP elections? Let's give it a shot.
This is the Iowa Caucus. These are the Iowa Caucuses, Republican tonight. Here's what we're going to do.
Fabulous.
Clive 8, if you're in Clive 8, your address is Clive. Just if you can't be over here, we break it up into precincts. So your walkie,
apologies.
That side walkie 2 is yours. I mentioned the petition. If you didn't get them coming in, get them going out. Please sign it for Zach Nunn.
It's all on the right side, stereo.
County Attorney. This is where we get the signatures, so they don't have to go door to door in the cold to get their signatures to get on the ballot. So if you want Republicans on the ballot, fill out and put your name and address on all the signatures so we can get those legally done.
Wait.
Tonight, we will do the pledge, then the prayer. We're going to then allow the speakers. I don't think we've had a national candidates. I mean, like Trump, DeSantis, Haley's not here. We've been seeing them in our coffee shops for all this last year. So we're going to let local citizens talk for their candidate and help you decide who you're going to vote for tonight. Zach Nunn.
Okay, look at DeSantis's. I don't know what. This is just one of the sites. Look at Trump's gathering, the Donald Trump campaign. Look at that shit. That's just fucking bizarre. Easy with the flags. Jesus Christ. They're not candles on a birthday cake, you old fart. Also, I had no idea that this is Nikki Haley's gathering. Apparently, she's the size of Godzilla. People look different on camera. It's hard to tell.
And we're going to ask for Central Committee members, and I think a couple are already there, so it's pretty easy. Unless you really have a desire, you can just vote them in. And then we need 9 delegates to the county convention. And basically, if you raise your hand, it's on Saturday, February 17th. This is where they talk the platforms and all of the issues and move on up as delegates up to the state central committee. So we need 9 people on both sides. So pretty much if you volunteer, you get on the list.
Yeah, it's going to be, yeah, it's awful. Like the audio on it, because it's just this left side of it. And in reality, it doesn't really, like, this is, what I'll do is I'm gonna break down like right now, and I'll just stop the show right now because I know some of us are going to be watching the coverage on it live, and getting a decent feed will be difficult. But the more important thing is going to be how it turns out and how everybody's going to spin it tomorrow, because no one will be happy tomorrow on the Republican side. I would just like to say that for the record. Trump is not going to clear. If he clears 51%, it'll be a fucking miracle and a lot of bullying, but it's not going to help him at all. And if he doesn't get 60%, he's going to be fucking pissed. And if he gets 60%, he's going to say he got 70 and 80 and a bunch of bullshit. Yeah, it's a good idea. It's interesting because these are caucuses different from, just the voting that happens in New Hampshire, because that's secret ballot, just like a regular election, right? Caucuses, they literally like kind of gaggle together, and in the middle of it, you can make an argument that like, you guys clearly don't have enough, you should join us. And then they'll have this kind of back and forth. Most of the time in the modern era, it doesn't really amount to a hill of beans. People have already entrenched in it. But occasionally, you can have people who are standing there go, you know what, I'm going to go over with these guys because I'm going to put my weight with this side, because it's like it's not quite chess, but it's closer to checkers. So they'll move over and they'll join the crowd over here, and they'll basically do like a head count. And it's very tribalistic. It's a bully tactic, and usually in a lot of cases it benefits whatever group has the sort of the biggest bully tactic capability as far as the volume of people. Trump is throwing a monkey wrench in that because he lost to Ted Cruz in Iowa in 2016, because there's a very distinct kind of like, what they would call the establishment Republican streak there for good reason. And some New York pussy grabber who's a lying, full of shit, second generation rich kid who's got a bunch of criminal cases in front of him is not exactly who these folks would normally go for. And again, most of his supporters come from the outlying areas and who've never voted before, never caucused before, don't know what the fuck they're doing. And so they're all, some of them might be coming in to kind of like elbow their way to the front, but there's a very strong chance that both Haley and DeSantis have a lot more personal support there available than people think they will. But there's no way of knowing, and the weather's a big, wild card. And the reality is, it kind of doesn't fucking matter. The reality is that Donald Trump is not at 98% where he was in 2020. This is a fucking jerk around. And the fact that he's had to barnstorm the state to try and protect 51% shows just how vulnerable he is. And half of Nikki Haley's voters, and these are Republicans, not Democrats or people who jumped over no matter what Trump says, and half of DeSantis, all of Christie's and stuff, if they're not going to vote for Donald Trump, they're either going to vote for Joe Biden or not at all. There are more Democrats in this country than there are Republicans. And if all Democrats just show up and vote, we could even lose the TYT asshole crowd and still be head and shoulders above the volume of Republican voters. Unless they can get the suburban, women and the independent voters over to their side, they can't even balance up in number. The 1-to-1 voter ratio, Trump to Biden last time, was probably the best reflection of the actual electorate in the country, because just the volume of human beings. And for those maggots who are still all in on Trump, they're just going to enjoy watching his hard fade over the next 3 months. And it won't be because of Democrats. It'll be because the Republican Party is only half in on him. And there is a weird little civil war going on in the Republican Party right now between the maggot caucus and what are effectively what they would view as the establishments or regular run-of-the-mill conservatives or genuine Christians, any of that stuff, who aren't like hardline bullshit artists who are, the evangelical, neo-Christians, the fake Christians, prosperity gospel assholes, and the people who genuinely live of faith and believe that should, inform their vote. He's kind of fucked, and it has nothing to do with the amount of Dems voting in this. And in the general election too. There is no point where he's going to lose 15%. There is no way he doesn't, in the process of this election cycle, shave 15% off the general election crowd that would come and show up for him. And they're already behind in a deficit. If the Democrats can simply get out the vote on a scale even close to what Obama had, they will trounce him again and win the Electoral College and flip the House. That's just it. It is bread and butter politics at this point for Democrats. As long as we can keep the bullshit artists and the chaos agents from driving, voter turnout down on our side, it's set. And if anybody wants to bitch that Democrats don't live up to whatever the fuck the standard that they personally have, never mind, the stroke of the pen fallacy, which we've talked about, and those kind of ideas. Even those people can fuck off and will still win if you just get at a baseline, because Donald Trump has boiled the base down like he's left a pot of stew on the stove and cooked all the water out of it. That's just true. That's what this shit is. There's a bunch of people there who are like, you're not supposed to wear MAGA hats and shit like that. And they've got their own little fucking caucus captain hats that they can, but you're not supposed to wear any of your other shit. So they can't use their main bully tactic, which is wearing their red hats and shit like that to try and elbow their way around. And so you got a bunch of people there who are going to vote for Nikki Haley. They're going to vote for DeSantis, but they're not particularly happy about it, but it's absolutely preferable to him. And they're going to hold their nose and do it. And they're going to take shit from people that live near them and people that go to their church. And it's going to cause all these unnecessary rifts because it's so fucking brutal. They're such assholes to each other. And we've been through some of that shit before. We went through that with the Bernie bros. It was just as divisive and just as painful. And in our case, it led to a situation where it cost Hillary Clinton 3 states in the Electoral College. That's really fucking dangerous. It is the same group of people, by the way, ideologically, intellectually, pseudosexually, and psychologically, that voted for Nader in Bush v. Gore because it was a coin flip. One guy, I don't know if I want to have this guy's a little wooden, but that guy you could have a beer with. They treated the job that involves nuclear codes like that, and they voted Ralph Nader because they were like, I'll show them. And what they did was they handed the country to Dick Cheney for 8 years. And that, if you had a vote that you threw away and the margin was that slim, then you're absolutely on the fucking hook. We don't have that problem as long as we have a good get out the vote. As long as we keep people, viewing this election in a logical, intelligent, and decently emotional way, in that they give a shit about women's rights specifically because they're more on the line than anybody else. Because let me tell you, if the Republicans were to win this fall, they will take it as a mandate to scuttle women's rights entirely. You got to understand, like, along with getting rid of abortion comes getting rid of contraception, comes getting rid of, like the men's rights crowd, getting rid of alimony and that kind of stuff. And so women are just on their own. So they better get married and stay the fuck home. That's what's going on. Like, they need that. That's their plan. That's where they're headed. And like a fucking, like a rocket ship, as Donald Trump would say. And they're not even hiding it. So, other than that, I have no opinion. What was somebody saying about RFK? Whatever, that the Ashkenazi Jews and the Chinese got together to make COVID? Was that the part you were talking? Oh, Biden being old. I see. Yeah, no. The reality is that experience counts for something, and if and RFK again, RFK Jr. is the Hunter Biden of Randy Quaid's. Just saying. Yeah. It is RFK Jr. Very, very important distinction. It is good. Anyways, I'm going to go watch whatever coverage is on that, and we'll talk about it in the morning. Or actually, tomorrow's it's a Tuesday, so I'll see you in the afternoon. I may do a longer show depending on the content that's available, but we'll all watch this stuff as it comes in because you guys are all going to jump over and watch Steve Kornacki anyways. I know it.